Wait, what? You were hiding her? I nearly gasped, eyes wide as I stared at the wedding invitation in my trembling hand. My pulse hammered in my ears as I reread the elegant script embossed on the card. The wedding of Rachel and Mark. And there, along with the detailed ceremony and reception information, was a note from Rachel's family inviting me to join the celebration. I couldn't believe my eyes. For years, my best friend, Mark, had been adamant that he was single, or at least, that he wasn't in any serious relationship. I trusted him implicitly. We'd been friends since high school, sharing countless memories, secrets, and even dreams of our futures. So when he'd always evaded questions about dating or put up vague, non-committal answers about focusing on work, I never suspected he was hiding something big. My name is Alex Carter, and this is the story of how the truth, so carefully concealed, finally emerged in the most unexpected way, forcing me to confront not just Mark's deception, but also the painful realization of how deeply betrayal can cut when it comes from someone you love. It's a story of confrontation, of soul-searching, and ultimately, of finding the courage to speak the truth even when it hurts. It all began on an ordinary Saturday afternoon a few months ago. I was sitting in our favorite old diner, a cozy spot with checkered tablecloths, a clatter of vintage jukebox tunes, and the aroma of freshly brewed coffee, waiting for Mark to join me for our regular catch-up. He was always punctual, a stalwart friend whose reliability had been a constant in my life. But that day, he was late. I texted him a few times, wondering if he was caught up with work or simply delayed by traffic. Eventually, he called. "Sorry, man," he said, his voice oddly clipped. "I got held up. I'll be there in 20. I reassured him that it was fine, though I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. Still, I chose to trust him, just as I had always done. Weeks went by, and Mark continued to brush off any inquiries about his dating life. Occasionally, I'd see a fleeting glance or hear a whispered giggle between him and someone on his phone, but I assumed it was nothing, just harmless banter, nothing more serious. I was content in our friendship, focusing on my own work and personal projects, while Mark remained a constant figure in my life as a true friend. Then one day, the unexpected arrived in the mail, a beautiful, formal envelope from an address I didn't recognize. Inside was an invitation that made my hands shake. "You are cordially invited to the wedding of Rachel and Mark. Ceremony, Saturday, 4 p.m., St. Andrew's Church. Reception to follow at the Grand Plaza. RSVP by date." My mind raced. Rachel. I'd heard nothing about anyone named Rachel from Mark. I didn't recall any mention of a girlfriend with that name. In fact, he had always told me he was single. The invitation was signed simply by the Rogers family. At first, I wondered if it was a mistake, but the details were too specific, the design too elegant to be anything but intentional. When I confronted Mark that evening at our usual hangout, a quiet rooftop bar overlooking the city, I couldn't contain my bewilderment. "Mark, who is Rachel?" I asked, my voice low and laced with hurt. He looked away for a moment, as if gathering his thoughts. "Rachel," he repeated softly, and then, with a shake of his head, he mumbled, "She's someone I've been seeing." His tone was dismissive, almost regretful. I didn't think it was a big deal. It wasn't like I was hiding her, she just wasn't mentioned. But the invitation said otherwise. How could he not mention her when his family was hosting her wedding? The conversation that followed was a chaotic tumble of half-truths and defensive explanations. Mark claimed that it was complicated, that he'd never felt the need to introduce her to our circle because it was just casual. I tried to probe further, hoping for honesty, for clarity, but his answers were vague, filled with awkward pauses and dismissive hand gestures. In that moment, I realized that his lies had gone deeper than I'd ever suspected. Not only had he concealed his relationship with Rachel, but he'd also orchestrated a scenario that now forced me to confront the reality of his betrayal. In the days that followed, I grappled with a torrent of emotions. Betrayal stung fiercely. How could my best friend hide something so significant? The shock was accompanied by a simmering mix of anger and sorrow. I found myself replaying every conversation, every text, and every subtle hint that might have pointed to the existence of Rachel. Had I missed it all along? I felt a deep sense of loss not only of trust but of the friendship I'd cherished for so long. Then, amidst that whirlwind of emotions, I made a decision. I needed to face the truth, not just for myself, but for the sake of our friendship, and perhaps, for his own sake. I decided to attend the wedding. Not to confront him in public, but to observe, to understand, and maybe to find closure. If Rachel was real, and if his relationship with her was genuine, then I deserved to witness that truth firsthand. I reached out to the Rogers family discreetly, and much to my surprise, they welcomed my presence as a close friend of Mark's, assuming I was unaware of the full extent of things. They appreciated that I was part of the family circle, and with an RSVP confirmed, I set the date in my calendar with a mixture of dread and resolve. The wedding day. The day of the wedding dawned bright and clear, a stark contrast to the dark clouds that had loomed over my heart for months. I arrived at St. Andrew's Church early, mingling with other guests who were dressed in their Sunday best, exchanging warm greetings and cautious smiles. The church was adorned with fresh flowers and soft drapes, creating an ambience that was both joyful and solemn, a place where love was supposed to triumph. As the ceremony began, I took my seat among the rows of neatly arranged pews. I could feel a heaviness in my chest as I looked around, unable to shake the sense of foreboding that this day might hold. Then, the music swelled, and all eyes turned towards the front. There, at the altar, stood Mark, dressed in a crisp suit, his smile carefully poised for the cameras. And by his side, almost as if she were an afterthought, stood Rachel, a stunning woman with a warm, inviting smile. Her eyes sparkled, and she exuded an aura of confidence that was hard to ignore. As the officiant began the ceremony, I tried to focus on the words, on the celebration of love. But my mind kept wandering, thinking of the secret that had been hidden for so long, of the betrayal that I had never fully confronted. Every time the camera panned to Mark, I could see a fleeting glimpse of something in his eyes, a hint of remorse, perhaps, or maybe just the complexity of a man who had chosen a path he thought was right. At one point during the ceremony, I saw a brief exchange between Mark and Rachel, a look that was intimate yet somber. It was as if, in that moment, the weight of his deception was catching up to him. And then the vows were spoken, and the ceremony continued. I couldn't help but feel that every word, every promise being made, was overshadowed by the history we shared, the friendship turned sour by lies. Following the ceremony, the reception was held at an elegant ballroom nearby. The atmosphere was one of strained festivity. Upbeat music tried to mask the undercurrent of awkwardness, while the guests smiled and chatted as if nothing unusual had occurred. I was careful, keeping my distance as I navigated between groups of laughing relatives and colleagues. In quieter moments, I found myself reflecting on the irony of it all. A best friend who had once entrusted me with his deepest secrets now stood on the other side of a marriage that was built on deception. Midway through the evening, during a lull in the festivities, I found myself alone on the edge of the dance floor, taking a moment to process everything. In that quiet solitude, I made a decision. I would speak up, not to create further drama, but to reclaim my own truth and, perhaps, to give Mark a chance to face the consequences of his choices in an honest setting. I approached the microphone set up for the toast, my hands slightly shaking as I took a deep, steady breath. Ladies and gentlemen, I began, my voice initially soft but gradually gaining strength. I'd like to say a few words. The room quieted, the chatter fading away as all eyes turned towards me. I've known Mark for more years than I can count. We shared dreams, we shared laughs, and we shared a friendship that I believed was unbreakable. But today, as I stand here, I must confront a truth that has changed our story forever. When a friend hides a relationship, the person you thought you knew, from those who care, it wounds not just you but everyone who believed in him. I'm not here to cast blame or to cause further hurt. I'm here to say that today, I choose honesty, I choose to embrace the truth, however painful it may be. And I hope that by standing here, we can all learn that trust is fragile, and that true friendship demands openness. My words hung in the air, a fragile confession of hurt and a call for transparency. There were murmurs of surprise, a few stifled sobs, and then, slowly, a silence that felt almost reverent. I continued, I wish things had been different, but I believe that every truth, no matter how hard, is worth facing. This is not just about me, it's about what we all stand for, honesty, vulnerability, and the courage to rebuild when our foundations are shaken. As I concluded, I saw Mark's eyes glisten with unshed tears, and I realized that, in that moment, the weight of our shared past was laid bare for all to see. Aftermath and healing. In the days following the wedding, conversations broke out among our mutual friends and family. Some expressed their shock at the hidden truths. Others, like a few longtime acquaintances, murmured that maybe this was a wake-up call for Mark to finally be honest about his life. I received messages of support from those who said that my courage in speaking out had given them hope. Thank you for sharing your truth, Alex. I hope you continue to heal and move forward. One message read. Mark eventually reached out to me privately. In a heartfelt message, he admitted, Alex, I'm sorry. I was afraid of losing everything if I told the truth, and I made a terrible mistake. I never meant to hurt you. His words, filled with regret, did little to mend the deep sense of betrayal, but they did open the door for a dialogue, a chance to understand the fragile nature of trust and the importance of authenticity in all our relationships. In subsequent weeks, I decided to leave that painful chapter behind. I focused on rebuilding my sense of self, engaging more deeply with my work, reconnecting with old friends, and even taking up meditation to help manage the turbulent emotions. I channeled my energy into projects that celebrated truth and transparency, writing blog posts, participating in podcasts, and even mentoring others who had experienced similar betrayals. I came to see that while the pain of discovery never fully fades, it can transform you, offering a chance to rebuild, reinvent, and redefine who you are. New beginnings. 1 year has passed since that unforgettable day, the day I received the wedding invitation that forced me to see the hidden layers of our shared past and to speak my truth. Today, I look back on that day with a mix of sorrow, relief, and a steadfast hope for the future. I've learned that life is not defined solely by the betrayals we endure, but by our ability to rise above them and to forge a new path. I've since embraced the power of honesty, both in my personal relationships and my professional life. I now organize open forums on the importance of trust and vulnerability, inviting speakers from all walks of life to share their own journeys of confronting painful truths. I continue to write, a collection of essays, reflections, and poems that capture the essence of betrayal, healing, and the delicate beauty of truth. I even collaborated on a short film that uses reenactments and real footage to tell the story of how hidden secrets can resurface and change everything, a project that has sparked meaningful discussions across social media platforms. There are still moments, sometimes in the quiet solitude of the early morning, when the memory of that wedding, of the secret that was finally exposed on that stage, brings a bittersweet pang. Yet, each time, I remind myself that every scar is a testament to the resilience of the human heart. I learned that when you choose to stand up for what is right, even when it feels like your world is crumbling, you not only reclaim your dignity but also pave the way for others to follow. A final message. So, if you ever find yourself in a situation where someone hides a vital part of their life from you, if a dear friend or partner conceals truths that you believe are essential to share, remember this. The path to healing begins with honesty. It might be painful, it might shatter the illusions you've built, but in that pain there is opportunity, a chance to rebuild, redefine, and ultimately, to become stronger than you ever imagined. I was once left in the dark, forced to confront a betrayal that cut deeper than I ever thought possible. But by gathering the courage to speak my truth, by scheduling a team meeting, playing a recording, and later even confronting a hidden reality at a wedding, I found that the truth, no matter how painful, sets you free. I reclaimed my narrative, not through anger, but through the transformative power of honesty, vulnerability, and resilience. And so, as I sit here tonight in the quiet comfort of my living room, reflecting on all that has transpired, I have a message for every heart that has been broken. Do not let betrayal dictate your worth. Embrace your truth, let it be your guide, and know that every challenge you overcome becomes a chapter in the incredible story of who you are. Because in the end, it's not the secrets we keep or the lies we live with, but the courage we find to be honest that defines our destiny. This is my story, a journey from betrayal to empowerment, from hidden truths to the public unveiling of a reality no longer hidden, and from heartbreak to the strength to rebuild. I was once the person left in the dark, hurt by someone I trusted implicitly. Today, I stand as a testament to the fact that when you confront the truth head-on, no matter how painful, you unlock a future filled with authenticity, hope, and the promise that you can always rise above the shadows. So here's to truth, to resilience, and to finding the strength within yourself to rewrite your narrative, even when the past is full of secrets. Every step forward is a victory, and every new day is a chance to shine, regardless of the darkness that came before. And with that, I know that the future is not just something that happens to us, it's something we create, one honest, courageous moment at a time.